Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Beyond Infinite podcast. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming. And once again, we are back after a small hiatus, and we are with, as always, D-Money. How you doing, man? Welcome back.
Happy to be here, as always, with the Beyond Infinite podcast, with the amazing guest host, or guest. It's Guest. It's so confusing because your name is Guest.
It's great because it makes you stutter. That's all. You know, I try to throw people off nonstop, you know, but we were thrown off last week because we each had personal obligations. It's like, hey, we're starting a new podcast. We take a week off. But you know, life happens, you know, work happens, things have to happen, but we're back and we're going to catch up and talk about what's happened over the last couple of weeks. And there's a lot that happened, not just today, the day of the recording on Thursday, but also what's coming up within the next week. So, I mean, we're trying to keep this to an hour. If you're good, let's just kind of like go right into it and take a look at what did we miss over the last few days, because the first thing was we were trying to project Grandmaster. And Grandmaster, just quickly, I'll say that I really, truly believe we still haven't figured out Grandmaster even 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I don't think we missed anything, actually, because Grandmaster sucks, in my opinion. It was kind of a flop, not gonna lie. To be fair, I don't think I really built or played the decks properly with Grandmaster, but I tried him out for a few hours, probably 3.5 hours, and tried him in probably like 4 decks or so. Every time it was just like I threw away so many ranks. I think I only played him one time. I think I only got his effect to go off one time in 3.5 hours, and I still lost that game. So I don't know if I'm just doing something wrong or if the card is really just like horrible, but it was just, I was not feeling it. Not gonna lie.
I'm on the, I can't even say I'm on the opposite end, because I feel like I'm still trying to figure out his best use case. I'm stuck in this world of, is he good in Sarah Tech because you play him from behind and you don't need a lot of stats in a techie style, you know, defense deck. You get your stats from elsewhere. I tried him in Discard and Darkhawk, and I've tried a whole bunch of combinations. And the only thing I really feel comfortable with at this point, after all of these other tests that I did with him, and I played a lot of Grandmaster, the only one that felt good was Sarah Tech. Using him for cheap, for 1 at the final turn of the game to get off a second Shang-Chi or a second Shadow King, or like that kind of effect really worked well. Second Gladiator to thin the deck too, that worked great. But that's the only one I felt like he was worth something, because it's a deck that doesn't rely on stats, kind of like Junk in that sense, where it doesn't need stats necessarily. It just needs you to not have them. Not because I need them, you just are not allowed to have any stats. So Sarah Tech is where I found him working okay, but I truly think the good days of him will come in the future. I don't see them changing anything about him. I don't see them making him more expensive or giving him, even at a 2/2 or power, that I don't see them doing that to him, because his effect is very strong, but the strong effect on a weaker card, like another 1 cost or a 3 cost card, is kind of where he gets stuck.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do think he is best in like the Sarah deck, like you were saying. And I kind of refuse to play that deck, not gonna lie. I don't know, maybe it's because it's like so popular, but and because I lose against it so much. But
Fair.
Yeah, I do agree with you also with I think that the card does have a powerful effect overall, and it is like a scary card to have in the game for future cards to get added into the game. Like, it does actually kind of limit the creativity space for it does limit the cards that they can kind of print for the game, because it is such a strong effect, and they have to be careful with the on reveal effects. Like, this card can get out of control, I'm sure. Like, I mean, you already see it a little bit with like people are trying to cook up like with this Sarah deck like the Elias kind of combo with Grandmaster to pull up 2 Elias, which is it's a scary thought, not gonna lie.
Uh-huh.
It does require you to have priority though, in order to work, and then yeah, you would have to not have like any more reveals on that location, but yeah, it's I think the card could get out of control in the future. I don't think it's at its full potential either, just yet. But some people are finding success with it, not me, and I'm okay with just not touching it for now. I lost already way too many ranks, so I need to
come
just
back.
he's
Come
on
back
the
to
he's on
him
the
later.
back burner right now.
Come
Yeah.
back to him later. I feel like someday one person's going to put out a crazy, ridiculous deck, and then all of our brains will go, ah, that's how we were supposed to use him all along. Like I was using him with Beta Ray Bill to get those hammers to reproc, kind of like a cheaper Wong Odin type thing. And that actually had some use case to it, but it to me still didn't justify Beta Ray Bill as being a necessary card, if that makes sense. Like we have Thor. Yes, this is like Thor-ish also, but I just, after playing Beta Ray Bill this week, and I tried a variety of different ways to do so, I only could think of one other way that I haven't tested him that I would want to. But I want to hear your experience about what you think of also Beta Ray Bill this week and the whole Asgardian clan.
Yeah, I mean Beta Ray Bill is just like it just goes directly into this Thor, Jane Foster, Lockjaw kind of package. It's really nothing new that from what we've seen in the past so far. It's just like an improved Thor, it just costs a little more. Does a very similar thing. It's better when you proc it twice or multiple times.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does make the deck better. That kind of deck better, I think, just more consistent. And I think the other deck that it fits in probably is the is like a Sarah, or maybe not even Sarah, but like a Hit Monkey kind of deck where you you just now you have an extra hammer to play, so maybe you don't even need Sarah anymore, and you just dump a lot of cards on the final turn. And yeah, I think those are like the only 2 uses for it, and it's the same as how Thor was before. So I mean, it doesn't really change too much, but it is a cool tool for the deck, I guess, and it just helps it overall. And there's a lot of fans of that deck.
With what he put out in the first couple of games, I was like, okay, let me just try, the classic variation, exactly that, Odin and Lockjaw, etc. And like the second game, he was already scaling incredibly high. But oddly, my best deck with him was a negative deck. I put that whole package in negative, and then paired it with like Black Panther and Zola and Iron Man, Wong, Mystique, etc. And it then gave you like 2 different early play lines where you clearly knew, because they're mostly bigger cards, you knew from your opening hand, this is the line I'm going to play. And it was a lot of fun. Like even turning him negative and pulling him and still getting him to go to a 6-8 later on doesn't feel incredibly bad when you happen to pull it too. Like it was a fun deck that actually had a positive win rate. So for that to have been, for me, his best deck shows to me that he's probably not the best card. And I have a very hot take on him, which is that I think we're honestly probably playing him wrong. I think that Beta Ray Bill's biggest weakness is Thor. And I'll tell you why. We look at what Beta Ray Bill can actually do. He puts out 413 because of the Stormbreaker stats. So if you have a 413 card, and the only card that you need to activate that is another 5-8, why is that any different than the stats that you get from Sentry Annihilus or stats that you get from Black Bolt Stature? I think it's a 2-card combo that we could actually start working with Beta Ray Bill as a package into other decks and stop this need to get Thor at a 310 when we've got other cards that can do really good stats and make up that difference anyway. And it's getting in the way. I think Thor is holding back what Beta Ray Bill could potentially do. And I think he's going to be a better card once we separate him from Thor.
Okay, that is a pretty hot take.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're it's just so tempting because it just curves out so perfectly. Like you just go 3 into 4 into 5, and it just feels so good.
Yeah,
And
but
then
you only pull that out 1 in 6 times. 1 in 6. It's a 15% chance. It's just about 1 in 6. So
but it feels like 1 and 2 because of your bias. Like when you get
Yeah.
it, like then it's like it just makes
but
you
we all
feel
know
so
about
like,
bias and
the
Snap.
dopamine.
Careful. People freak out when you say
It's all
that.
rigged. um, yeah. I don't know. I do think that because of like if you're doing the hit monkey build, then it does work out really well with Thor getting the extra hammer. So you have the 2 hammers, you get 2 cards for free to dump on that last turn to pump up the monkey. Um, you might be right. I don't think he necessarily needs the Thor in there, but I just think it adds to the consistency. Like if you're gonna run Jane in the first place, like I think you do want some other, like usually when I run a card, I want like 2 other cards at least that will kind of synergize with it, kind of like kind of like Mystique. Like if I only have Iron Man in my deck, like I'm not gonna add Mystique in there. If I have 2 cards that are like, if I have Wong and Iron Man, or like 2 cards that I could copy with Mystique, then I could justify it. And I feel like it's kind of similar with Jane Foster. Like I don't want only only this one card, so I don't know what the formula is. You might be correct. I mean, it does seem kind of cool with Mr. Negative as well. Like it's spicy, definitely spicy.
Yeah. It was fun.
But
I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
It was a lot of
I think
fun.
there
That
has
deck.
to be. I do think there has to be more experimentation. I mean, on my part as well. Like I literally just put Bill in a deck yesterday and pressed the autocomplete button, and it gave me like it gave me the perfect lockjaw deck. I'm not even joking. Like it was
Yeah.
actually like, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's nothing crazy, but like it worked. Like I got the nuts like 6 times in a row at the beginning, and I was like, I mean, this is pretty good. It's not bad, but yeah, it's hard to deviate from the thing that we already know for sure.
Yeah. I think Lockjaw might be the key in that. So maybe there's like that Wasp play as your other 0. So you're looking at High Evolutionary, or maybe there's this weird ass Patriot thing. I don't know, but there's got to be something else with them, because those stats are really good, but the inconsistency of getting him to do what you want him to do just makes him feel very clunky. And same thing with Jane Foster. Like you need her to do what you need her to do. So I know that's why you get crippled with Thor, is you think you have to maximize on that chance. I must get all of the 0 cost cards. Wow. Like that's why I put her in negative.
Or Asgard.
Yeah. For Asgard. Hurrah. Yeah. No. But I mean,
I think
not
Bill's
bad.
pretty solid though.
It was a good start to the week.
You said 413, and that's like pretty good nowadays in Snap. Like that's a decent stat line. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's almost Ms. Marvel levels right there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so we got those 2 new cards, and they're not they're not broken, which is like cool. Like it's bad in the sense of like you have to pay a lot of tokens for these cards, and tokens, I mean 6,000 tokens is like almost like $100 if you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of money, but we also like are kind of tired of them releasing like these broken cards and them being busted for so long, especially the season pass cards. So it's nice to see like decent cards that can be used in some decks be released, and they're like playable. Grandmaster, I'm still on the fence, but Beta Ray Bill is definitely playable. But yeah, we have some other cards that are maybe playable now. We have an OTA patch that just dropped today. And there's a few interesting changes in here that I don't necessarily understand myself, but I don't know. I heard Guest just made like a whole video on them, so I might have to go watch that later. But I'm sure he'll give us some nice insight on them. We could start off with Luke Cage. Luke Cage just got changed to a 3/4 instead of a 2/3, and I didn't even see this part of it. He's back to his other effect.
Yeah, man.
He's back to the old effect of your cards can't have their power reduced instead of just being to the single location. That is huge.
Yeah, he is. It's nice to have good old Luke Cage back the way that he should have been from the beginning, which is a 3-cost AoE style card. I'm just happy that he's a 3/4 for the wrong reasons compared to everybody else who wanted him at a 3/3 because they wanted to use him in Cerebro 3. If he was a 3/3, he'd be more broken than at 3/4. I love him at 3/4 because now it opens up a whole nother mindset of how do you use Luke Cage outside of just, oh, I'll throw him into Cerebro because it's a great defensive piece for me. You can't hurt me. Ha ha ha. Like, I really like him at 3/4 because it's forcing us into maybe testing out Cerebro 4 a little bit more, like with Ms. Marvel, for example, or maybe it's not the perfect curve anymore because you're not going to reduce it to make it even for your Valkyrie, for example, or there's some really cool things that can now be done with Luke Cage, and I like it. It should have been this from the very beginning. It should have been this from the very, very beginning.
Yeah, this I agree. The 3/3, yeah, it would have been like they talk about it in the developer notes as well with Cerebro 3, and yeah, I think this card it has a powerful effect. As a 2/3, it was just like something that you could put in every single deck pretty much because it works with so many locations. It works against so many decks, and there's like you're really like not losing out on too much just by playing it down, and it allows you to even play like Man Thing like pretty easily as well. So I like that you have to invest a little more into this card now, but it's still really good. I think the effect is very strong, and of course I think my girlfriend will be very happy with this because she is very into Silver Surfer decks, and this seems like a pretty good Silver Surfer card now.
It is. Securing that is going to help Silver Surfer. I just don't think it's going to be enough to make Silver Surfer like meta viable yet, because we need some more 3/5s to kind of come to the game a little bit. Once we get a couple of more of those that we can then stack on top, then it'll feel really good. But as long as Brood stays as a 2/2, and we only have a big jump from 3/5 to 3/8 because no one's playing Swordmaster, let's be honest here, that's a huge gap to have to deal with. So, I mean, I'm happy for the Luke Cage change. I'm gonna let you lead the floor on the next change first, because I spoke at length about this in my own video, so I want to hear your take, and then I will react to it first, because Hulkbuster was changed as well, which is probably the most controversial change by making him now a 2/3 instead of a 3/5.
Yeah, this card sucks. No, I think. That's my take. I'm not really seeing it anymore. As a 3/5, it was pretty poppin', not gonna lie. There were some different things you could do with it, and it would just take a card like Multiple Man to a whole nother level.
Yep.
Same with like Deadpool, and it would just like escalate it really quickly. But now as a 2/3, like yes, it makes it more flexible with the -1 energy, but taking those 2 stats, the 2 power off of it, I think is gonna hurt significantly. So I'm not really seeing it too much. Like move is already really tough to justify in this meta. So yeah, I think this was I think it was more of a nerf to Hulkbuster than a buff, in my opinion.
I think they're just completely backwards on it, because their whole reasoning behind it was talking about that we want to nerf Destroy. So the most powerful cards in Destroy, and this is what they were talking about in the creator chat, they talk about in the notes here, that Deadpool decks were the most popular and the most powerful of all of the different Destroy decks. And the top 2 cards that were affecting them were Nico Minoru and Hulkbuster. So by bringing down the power of Hulkbuster, they believe that they could also bring down the power of what Deadpool can essentially do in that same way. And I saw the nerf and I did the math, and it just really aggravated me, because then they also talk about like Multiple Man and Werewolf by Night and all these other cards that you can do some cheeky things. And I it hurts all of those decks, even though they're wanting you to now have more opportunity to use it in those decks. I'm sorry, that's backwards. And then the other way around for Deadpool, because I sat down and did the math, it works out to the exact same Deadpool. But now it's on curve, and you help your null more, and you help your death more because of now it being an on curve card versus maybe you have to play the Forge before you play Deadpool and then waste a mana in the process. Either way, it ends up being a 32 power Deadpool. But now it's one less card, you put it in the curve, and you're helping your other two cards more. Like this, it doesn't make sense to me how this is how supposed to be perceived as a nerf to the deck when all it did was just round out the play style of the deck. But I'm very happy for one person out of this entire change, and that's Tucker, because he is the destroy man. He is the content creator known for destroy decks, you know, the one who praises Lady Deathstrike, and now his deck got a buff. Like, this is just wild to me that people are looking at this going, this is a good nerf, this is a good adjustment, it's balanced, it's fair. No, it just seems like it's upside down on its head.
I mean, so I do see how it's on curve now with the Deadpool, but how does it equal the same? Does it equal out because it's on curve? Is that what you're saying?
So if you play Deadpool into Hulkbuster, that's your first two turns. That turns into a 1/4. Destroy it on turn 3. It's a 1/8. Destroy it on turn 4, 1/16. Destroy it on turn 5. It's 1/32 in your hand, and you can play it on turn 6. It's a 1/32. The old way, you would play Forge first and then Deadpool. So it would be a 1/3. Then you would add Hulkbuster, which would make it 1/3 goes to 1/8. 1/8 to 1/16 to 1/32. The difference is you killed only 2 cards in the old way, and now you kill Deadpool 3 times in the new way. So you actually destroy you lower your death count an extra turn because you destroyed your Deadpool a 3rd time. And because you destroyed it when it had Hulkbuster on it, that's an extra 4 power added to null versus the other configuration. You got an extra destroy and an extra add on to null. So it gives you more. And that's not even thinking you could still then even add Forge into the new version and still get extra stuff on top of it too. It's just wild to me. I don't understand it, and you can't convince me otherwise because I sit here with the math in front of me.
But 5 is bigger than 3. So these
are good reasons.
Yeah, that's actually, Guest is kind of speaking facts right now. That is true. Yeah, fixing the curve like that actually does make the numbers very similar, and it even like cuts down on the one card there. I don't really, when I saw this originally, I didn't really think it was changing that much, or
it changes how many times you kill Deadpool. That's the big one. Now it makes it a little tiny bit, like 7.5% more dependent on getting Deadpool on turn 1 versus getting Deadpool on turn 2. That's the real difference in this. That's not much.
Yeah, so I guess that's not really changing too much, and like I was saying before, it's kind of more flexible now at the 2 with like multiple men, and like they're saying Werewolf by Night, but like nobody is really trying to do that anyway at the moment.
Didn't it? I thought it didn't work though, because they listed that one. It's funny. Confirm it in the chat that's watching this live on D-Money stream. Confirm this as well. Doesn't it not move if Werewolf by Night absorbs into a non-on-reveal card? Like if it absorbs into, let's say, Darkhawk, I'm pretty sure Werewolf doesn't move, right?
It's got some. It's kind of weird with like Nico as well. Like if the card like transforms or something, it doesn't move, I think.
Somebody in the YouTube comments will probably say something and confirm it, right? But that was just something I read on it weird. I found Hulkbuster's change to be just confusing, but I'm gonna skip it, because I think if they did this change with the change that didn't happen, then it would have been something. Did you catch it? Because it was Bootman who I saw it through on Twitter. There was another change that didn't go live that was going to affect Destroy. Did you see this?
I did not see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now think of this adjustment, but now add this into it. So this was up on the Marvel Snap website for a short period of time and was apparently in talks to go live with this OTA, and then they chose not to, but it still went through on the website notes. Venom, they had changing from a 3-3 to a 4-5.
Okay, that's a big change.
Right. And the whole explanation is here, and I have it on the YouTube video if you want to see it. But it's basically they're saying that he's appearing in the top 20 cards week over week, and that Destroy is the number 1 deck now that Blob has been put back into its place. So being that there's overlap at 3 because of Deathlock, they thought about moving Venom to a 4-5. And when asked about this, because somebody came on into the Discord and asked Glenn what was going on with that exactly, and he straight up said that, it isn't currently planned for any future patches or OTAs, though they may consider it in the future again. But as of right now, they thought about it, they were ready to do it, and they decided not to. If they did that, does that change the impact of the Hulkbuster to you?
I mean, it's still kind of That actually, I think that does mess up the curve a bit. Well, you're putting the Hulkbuster on the Deadpool on turn 2, then you want to kill it off. So you could do it on. You could then play Deathlock, and then 4. You could. It doesn't really change it too much, but it makes it so you have to have the exact cards. You have to have the correct Destroy cards at the proper time, or else it does kind of mess with it. So yeah. I do like having the Destroy cards at different numbers, just so it does make the whole thing less consistent, I think. So I would not be opposed to that. Yeah,
I think it would hurt a little. It'd be annoying more than anything else. But I think it would be the same impact as Beast when they changed Beast, where everyone was like, oh my God, Bounce is now dead because Beast is a 3 cost and he's no longer 2. Oh my God, you're never going to play him again because he's awful. It's too expensive. Blah, blah, blah. People are still playing Beast at 3 costs. You just had to get used to it. I think that would have to be the case with Venom. It would be like your turn 5 Destroy card, and pretty much almost exclusively that.
Yeah, maybe we have somebody in chat making a good point that X23 actually makes it so that doesn't really even matter sometimes, the extra energy. So yeah, I don't think it would be such a big hit, but it would take it down a little notch on the consistency tab there. But regardless, Hulkbuster getting changed to the 2-3, and they're saying it's going to help things like multiple men. So I guess they're interested in move. I mean, we have some other move changes. They keep trying to make move work, man. Is it ever going to work? We have Heimdall going to a 6-9. Nice. I actually called this change a while back, not gonna lie. As things in the game are getting more powerful, we have Heimdall, who's pretty underplayed, and the move archetype's in trouble for a while. So yeah, I think the 1 power is definitely fair on this. The 6-drop keeps it under Shang-Chi still. I think that's very relevant. I think it's because of the Shang-Chi that we needed, and they actually said in the developer notes. I'm reading that now. It should have happened already.
Exactly, it should have happened the same way when they made the Shang-Chi change. They changed a bunch of stats on the cards, like Jessica Jones stuff. This should have been one of them. To be fair, he's just behind the curve, but his partner in Movement Crime also got a 9 power adjustment too, because there's not much to talk about Heimdall. I think there's more to talk about with Spider-Man 2099 going to, instead of 4-6, now being a 5-9. And I'm kind of scared of this card because I couldn't get it to work as a 4 cost. It felt incredibly awkward regularly. and you only got the effect to move once, and it never felt good for move, in my opinion. Like, it's a great effect when you get it to work, but because it's clunky, because it was 4 cost, I just, it was one of the reasons I never decided to play the card unless if it was in a Heimdall deck. Now, is this supposed to be what replaces Gamora? Because Gamora is the big card a lot of people like to play because of Molt. Gamora is the card that people like to play in a giant Heimdall move deck for that big power potential piece. So could move actually work where you've got Spider-Man 2099 at 5 cost being the big move, followed by big 6 drop to do another big move? Is that enough movement in the first 4 turns?
I don't think so. I just think killing one card, destroying one card is just not. It's just not enough nowadays. Like, there's the average snap game will consist of like there's very few decks that drop like very few cards nowadays. I feel like the board is like generally pretty filled up, and destroying one card is not really going to have such an impact, especially if it's random. I mean, I would like to see this card destroy multiple cards, maybe 2 cards, whether it's for like the first 2 moves or whether it's just like on the first move you destroy 2 cards. Okay. I just don't think one card really cuts it, even as a 5/9, which is like a pretty good stat line. It's not even so crazy nowadays. Yeah, I just don't think it's enough, the effect, like overall.
I think that if they're gonna give him a big chunky, body at 5/9, his effect needs to have targeting. I don't know if killing 2 cards is necessarily the move, because it might become a little too OP. Possible. But if you're going to destroy a card at 5/9 with 5/9, because for its activation to happen, there's more mana going into it. You need another card, whether it be a Ghost Spider, an Iron Fist, or multiple. Doctor Strange. You're still spending at least 1 more mana, which means to get his effect to actually happen, it's actually a 6/9 plus, whatever the power is from that other card. I just don't think that it being a random card is the actual answer to what we need. I think it needs to be targeted, whether it says the first card that was played into this lane, or the highest power, or the highest cost, or something to kind of like that Silver Samurai style effect where it's a very specific highest, lowest, whatever. I think something of that nature to give you a target strategy exactly on the card, then it maybe has some potential use. But if it's supposed to just be a big clunker where you either Spider-Man 2099 or do your Doctor Strange and your cloaks and your silks and all of these other, smaller movement pieces on turn 5 that get some good setups, you gotta justify it, because random doesn't create justification, in my opinion.
Yeah, the payoff just doesn't seem worth it at the moment.
Agreed.
But I do like I do like your ideas for like maybe like kind of like similar to like how Arrow moves the last card that was played. Like maybe Spider-Man 29 would kill the last card that was played at that location or something like that, which would make it a lot better, because the last card there is probably going to be a higher energy card. So it's kind of, they could do some interesting things with it. It's gonna, I think it's definitely gonna need some kind of rework. I mean, I haven't played with the new 5/9 yet. I'll have to try it out, maybe. Yeah. I kind of don't want to, but hopefully somebody else tries it out.
Proving grounds.
Because I'm just not. I'm still not seeing it, but I like that they keep at least trying. I like that they keep trying to improve the move archetype, since it is like one of the higher skill capped archetypes. And yeah.
Agreed. If you're good at move, you're really good at move. But simultaneously, it's very easy to screw up move because of it. Lastly, I'm going to make an admission here. When I saw this change, I absolutely crapped all over it because I didn't think it was good. It was Ghost, who went from a 1/2 to a 3/5. And I didn't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I said, this is a worse card. And I'm not going to lie, my mind has been changed since the actual live installation of the card, because I've been playing Saratech. And I saw a couple of people talk about Ghost is great in Saratech now because you get to go second and do all of those Shang-Chi's and Shadow Kings and all of the counters that you want to have second go second. But now you've got beefier stats going on top of it. So I threw it into a Saratech deck today, this afternoon, while I was just hanging out for a little bit. And I'm not going to lie, they were right. In that deck, this is really, really good. Having that as a 3-cost card just to make sure I can undo what you did, that felt really, really good. I'm not gonna lie. I was definitely wrong in my YouTube impression of what I think this card was going to do. Once I tested it today, yeah, this is actually a very good change for Ghost.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does seem really good in that deck because, I mean, the biggest thing is like Shang-Chi. And yeah, you just don't want to have priority. If you could play Shang-Chi and Killmonger on the last turn, which is exactly what the Sarah deck does, it's one of the only decks that does that. That is like perfect for this card.
Yep.
And like this card used to get destroyed by Killmonger, so you wouldn't be able to play Killmonger until the very end of the game. Now it gives you some more flexibility to play it on previous turns. And yeah, I mean, the only problem with Ghost is, of course, that you allow your opponent to play a card like Cosmo or like Alioth and kind of mess up your plan. But
yeah,
those are kind of expensive cards to counter like one specific location. So, I mean, the fact that Sarah goes kind of wide and they can play into multiple locations at once. Yeah, I think Ghost fits perfectly into that deck. I think you're completely right, as always, guest. And
not as always. No, I'm just admitting I was wrong.
No.
I was wrong because I didn't understand it, to be completely honest. But
everybody, go to guest YouTube video and comment, "You're wrong, bro."
Please, I will take all of the negative engagement.
Yes,
Thank you so much. I appreciate
the
you,
engagement.
Sir.
Please.
But no, and they're even talking about it here in the chat because you mentioned Alioth. I like the fact that he's a 3/5 because I had actually put out there that I wanted him to be a 1/3. That was in my predictions prior to us getting the notes. I wanted him at 1/3 because he's more, you should have more power to him because we live in the world of Alioth and you're paying for understanding that that penalty of Alioth does exist. Alioth is still a very relevant card. I think last I saw on Untapped, he's like at somewhere between like 10 and 12% popularity. Like it's still a very relevant card, but simultaneously, like you said, it's a single lane card. So if you play your Saratech deck right, including with cards like your beloved Grandmaster that can move cards around, you know what? You can actually you can get away with a couple of things and move around that Alioth. But I think Alioth's best days are yet to come, in my opinion, because of the new cards coming next week.
Ooh la la, what a transition.
Yeah. See what I did there? See what I did there?
Yeah, what do we have coming next week? Are we up to that? Yeah, I guess
we can be. I mean, we can don't butcher the transition. We're talking new cards. I'm going to tease the season pass first.
What new cards? Yeah. What's a season pass? I don't even know what that is.
It's this apparent thing that gets you like the best resources in the game, in my opinion, and a whole boatload of like variants and card backs and cool looking stuff. But our season pass coming up next week is a 2/3 card, Black Swan. So the Black Order is coming to Marvel Snap. She's an on reveal, which I think you'll love this. Until the end of next turn, your 1-cost cards cost 0. Bounce, bounce, bounce.
Sheesh.
You're gonna have fun with this. I know you will, man.
Oof, that is a really good card for bounce. That is very, very powerful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the season. That's a season pass card. If it's a season pass card, it's probably gonna be borderline busted. And
Yeah.
yeah, this probably goes in a decent amount. This doesn't have to work only with bounce. Like this seems good with a multitude of decks. Not gonna lie, um, but bounce definitely comes to mind. And
Yeah, it's the first one a lot of people think of, but I was, because I did a video for Black Swan. It'll probably come out actually at the same time as the video for this podcast. But while theory crafting, I made two different versions of bounce because you can with Black Swan. And the odd variation that I liked the most was actually one that played more into the zoo line than it did the bounce line, because Black Swan and zoo, I think, might be the final piece to the puzzle we needed to actually open Strong Guy up to the world, because we finally have a card that allows you to dump your hand fast enough. And she could do that. So I built a deck with that exact plan in mind of we're trying to get rid of our cards as fast as possible and get a 3/9 on the board, which is insanely good stats for Zoo. So it's better than Dazzler's stats. So I think I may have found a way to do that. But I think Black Swan, the biggest obvious one is bounce. She's going to be great in Thanos. She's going to be great in all hit monkey decks, even non-bounce variations. Like, she's going to be really good, including with, guess who? Grandmaster. I'm going to drill this card into your damn head, damn it.
No.
Seriously, she
Black
will.
Swan, maybe. Black Swan is a scary card, though, especially when you're heading into the last turn. Yeah, the cards like this make it so it's very difficult to predict what the board is going to look like on that final turn, what your opponent's going to be dropping on their turn 6. So it's like, do I want to stay? If my opponent drops Black Swan on turn 5, do I want to stay and see the fireworks? Like, it's gonna be fireworks. And like, if they have like, sure, like if I have Ghost out and then I have Killmonger in my hand, I'm like, ha ha ha, you're going down. But then they just play Kayara and a million 1-drops, and like, you lost. And yeah, I don't know, this card is really scary, not only in bounce but in zoo, and probably maybe some Moon Girl decks you could do with like demons. And I don't know, there seems like there's a lot of possibilities, yeah, with this card.
Ooh, look at you getting spicy with demons and
a little bit.
I like that. I hadn't thought of that one. Oh, that's just mean. That's just all the mean. Mix that with She-Hulk, and ooh, I like the way you think. I'm going to build something like that. But I think look, it's the season pass. Season passes are always something you get if you play the game more than 30 minutes a day, I'd say. Yeah, this is something you absolutely get. Yes, we're content creators. We're most likely getting the season pass in some way, shape, and form. I know you are. I know I will. So we're going to do a bunch of testing on them on our own live streams. But I don't think she's the best card of the day. I think that Supergiant, the Series 5 card, because now remember, we're now in this cycle where we get the season pass and we get another card at the same time in the spotlights. Supergiant is coming to the game at the same time. And I honestly think she is a sleeper card that people aren't talking really a lot about. She's a 4/5 with the on reveal effect of all cards played next turn don't reveal until the game ends. I love this so much.
That is a very powerful and unique and interesting effect. Yeah, we've never really seen something like this. Especially like if you have priority, this could be actually, you probably don't want priority when you play this, because you kind of want to see what your opponent plays. But I don't know, it's interesting, because if you have priority when you play it,
doesn't matter.
You'll have priority for the following turn as well, right? Because nothing will have revealed from your opponent.
Yeah, it's not from the moment that it reveals. It's for the next turn. So even if you have, let's say it's turn 4, and you play it down, they will still, it's not like Lemuria would do. It's not like that. I know what you're
Gotcha.
thinking, and that's probably where it's coming from. But yeah, no, they would still reveal their cards finishing turn 4. Turn 5 would then happen. Those cards don't reveal. Turn 6 then happens. Those cards do reveal. And then Supergiant's held back cards will later on reveal. So, I mean, my video on this is going to be out on, I think, Saturday. And I had to break down how the game ends because she's going to be a really strategic card, because you kind of use her like Invisible Woman in that aspect, but it's a well-timed, planted Invisible Woman, and she gives you different outs for decks like Hela when you don't pull it, because she's still okay stats and she's another option to hold back the later cards. But the Alioth synergy I was referring to earlier, she's going to allow for 3 Alioths to be played at the end of the game.
How does that work?
Supergiant on 5, Alioth on 6. Sorry, Supergiant on 4. You hide Absorbing Man, and if you have any other mana reduction or you do it in a Magic game, you can do another card. But if you hide your Absorbing Man, you could also do it in a Magic game and do Alioth into Grandmaster, into Absorbing Man into Grandmaster. You could technically use all 3 lanes and just kill every card that was played. Like there's a lot of different ways we can get her to proc, and it's just
all right.
evil.
I don't know if I want to do the podcast with you anymore. You're putting out some you're putting out some really toxic vibes here.
But it's a good toxic though. It's a good toxic. I've called the deck surprise fart. It's gonna be fun. I promise.
I have a lot of those. I have a lot of surprise farts. But anyway, yeah. So by the way, I purposely say things like I purposely say incorrect things just to like get guests to correct me. So you guys that are listening,
brilliant. No one knew. Shh, just go with it. Shh. No, don't reveal the secrets of the podcast. No.
Yeah. So Supergiant, just so everybody understands. So the cards that you play, all cards played the following turn,
right?
They don't get revealed until the game ends. So the cards that you play the turn after next turn, they're gonna get revealed first, and then all those cards that were played the turn after Supergiant, those are going to get revealed when the game ends. So I understand the Alioth thing now that I am understanding the card more. Yes, that makes sense for sure. Yeah, it does seem very skill testing. There's a lot of different things you could do with it. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of mistakes that people make with this card, like either playing on the other side of it or actually when they're playing it themselves. But yeah, there's a lot that you could do with this card. The first thing that came to mind for me was, which I don't really like myself, but is the Taskmaster kind of thing. Like maybe you could play Taskmaster after this, and then play the 6-drop, whatever your big 6-drop is. Then Taskmaster goes off at the end of the game, copies the big guy, and that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, 100%. You could do exactly that. You could drop down Taskmaster, and it would work great with a destroy deck, for example. If you did Supergiant on 3 and then Taskmaster, and then your out is, look, I have no other play. I have to try to get to this lane. I could play a destroyer for 16 power, and then the unrevealed card of Taskmaster would not be destroyed because then it reveals afterwards. So you have to, because they're looking at it in the chat first. So if as well, trying to figure out what the order is. So think of it like this. And I'll do the abbreviated version of the breakdown. You have the hidden card will reveal as the game end. So it'll reveal in the same way that Invisible Woman would reveal. So even if you Zaboed it out on 3, the cards that would be played on turn 4 wouldn't reveal until after the final turn of the game. So turn 6 or turn 7, depending on the game. So the big one for me, the biggest defense move for me that makes me incredibly happy is that this is how you stop Leech. Leech doesn't go off.
That is true. Yeah, also Chad is bringing up some good points. Like, not only does it stop Leech, but it also stops these other decks that are trying to set up for the following turn.
Right.
it'll set up. It'll actually mess up Sarah. If your opponent's trying to play Sarah on turn 5, it'll mess up bounce, depending on if they're trying to bounce on turn 5 to set up for that final turn as well. Yeah, it's not only a card that sets up your own deck, but it's also a disruption tool. So it's very powerful. Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I'm saying with this in particular, because it's going to freeze that card. That's why Eliath is so powerful with this card, because you froze whatever that is and it will never reveal, because you can then later on play your Eliath. Whether you have priority or not, it doesn't matter, because that card won't reveal until both of your priorities have finished for that final turn. Then the end of game sequencing happens. So I think that freezing is going to give us an increase in Eliath play next week. And I apologize in advance for, on behalf of the entire creator community, for all of us that are going to be telling you this, because we're telling you this because it's just going to be straight up good. It's going to be really good. And
only if you have the priority for the Eliath thing.
So then, now knowing this though, what card going into next week do you think will be the one you would A, play more, or B, actually climb more? Would you climb or play Black Swan more, or would you climb or play Supergiant more? Because they're both going to show up and they're both going to be relevant in the meta.
I'm going to play Black Swan and I'm going to play Cosmo in my deck. Yeah. I'm going to stop the Supergiants with Cosmo. I'm going to take Prio with all the cheap stuff, and then Cosmo, Black Swan, dump my hand, win the game.
I like it. I like it. Cosmo's going to be very big next.
Cosmo is in a very good spot at the moment.
But no one plays him, it feels like. Like we've all been, I feel like we have all been saying this for weeks, that no one's playing Cosmo. No one's playing Cosmo. And no one yet decides, you know what, it's time. It's time we should finally play Cosmo. This whole upcoming Black Order season month, like all the cards this month, are very on reveal deck heavy, discard deck in particular. So to me, it just is like, it should be the month of Cosmo, but people don't listen to that. So if there's anything you take out of this entire podcast today, please take the simple fact that you should probably be playing Cosmo. If not, play Eliath.
Nice. Yeah, we got these powerful cards coming out. And like Guest said, we get 2 cards in 1 week. That's the new thing starting last month. So you can expect this week on Tuesday, when the season pass drops, there's going to be not only Black Swan, but Supergiant as well, which is going to be a Series 5 card. It's going to cost 6,000 tokens, or it's going to be in the spotlights as well. So yeah, look out for that. It's going to be a big week, and we're also getting Darkhawk and Zabu in the spotlight as well, which is those are really big cards, and they work together very well. Yeah, if you don't have Zabu by now, like, you should definitely, that's one of the best cards in the entire game. I would totally recommend you get that. And the variant looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer week for all players. Whether you are a longtime player and you have a full collection and you don't know if you should get Supergiant, you definitely should. And it's good variants on top of it. But if you're a brand new player and this is your first ever opportunity to open up some spotlight caches, yes, this is a really good week to do it, because any of these cards to be pulled would be a great card to pull. Because the thing that's, for me with Supergiant, the thing that's best about it is you don't have to Zabu Supergiant out. It's almost more effective to be played on curve on 4. So yeah, you don't have to have Zabu. It's another option, but you don't have to have Zabu to play Supergiant. It's going to be a really interesting week next week to see which card kind of prevails. But all I know is I'm going a complete opposite direction off stream, because on stream, next week, yes, I'll be playing a whole lot of Black Swan. I know you will too. I'll be playing a bunch of Supergiant. Off stream, Sandman all day. all of the Sandman decks.
Who is this toxic guy on my podcast?
This is a guy trying to get out of the 20,000s in infinite rank. Okay. This is someone trying to play against the meta right now. You know, I was playing Sandman, and then they put a Galactus variant into this week's Spotlight. Now everybody's playing Galactus and Sandman and all these single cards. I'm like, well, this is no longer fun. I'll do it again next week. So I'll go back to it next week. It's fine.
Wow, Sandman would actually, that would really make me so sad. That actually really destroys the whole Black Swan card. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it completely destroys the Black Swan card. That's the whole hope.
Yeah.
Which is why I think on the Infinite Climb in the first 72 hours, yeah, that should probably be the deck that does it, because everybody plays the season pass.
Let me know when you're playing, and I will make sure to not play at that time.
I'll be live when it goes live.
All right, I'm not doing that. Nope. I'll be live a few hours after. I'll take my time. Yeah, exciting week though. There's gonna be a lot of stuff being played. I really like having 2 cards being released, and especially when they do completely different things like this. They create like so much diversity in the meta. I'm sure it's gonna be pretty diverse. So very happy to see that. Exciting month, and yeah, excited to go over the future cards as we go into the next weeks of the podcast. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you tune in for the following weeks as we go over how this season plays out, how the beginning of the season plays out, and what to expect for the future weeks to come.
Yeah, there's some really cool things coming this month, some really exciting cards this month, and hopefully maybe we get a surprise announcement of more Twitch drops whenever they do the season pass announcement this weekend. You know, fingers crossed. I love it. I know you love it. We love when Twitch drops come.
Yeah.
It's always resources and it's free stuff for everybody, so it's always a win. So maybe that comes back again. Maybe we get another specialty event. I don't know what's going to happen in the month of February, but what I do know is that I'm glad to be back into the rhythm here on the Beyond Infinite podcast with you once again. D Money, good sir, let people know what exactly is going on with you and where can they find you?
They can find me on this podcast every week. That's where they can find me. We filmed this podcast though on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/dmoney. If you want to come by, maybe we'll read your comment and you could tell us how you like the podcast. We'd love to hear it. And then, yeah, we have the podcast on every platform. So if you're listening right now, you could also view it on ItsGuestGaming's YouTube channel, and you can see us. You can see our beautiful faces. And yeah, Guest, what about you? Where can they find you? Who are you?
I am everywhere. I am air. I am water. I am everywhere. I look 3 times, 4 times, sometimes a week. You'll find me on twitch.tv/ItsGuestGaming. You find me on YouTube, putting up this podcast, as well as 3 to 4 videos and a whole bunch of shorts throughout the week. Same name, It's Guest Gaming. Look, just search that name. You'll find me somewhere. But right now, you're going to find me going to bed because I am tired. I did not take the nap. I did not fire the missiles. I am going to bed. But thank you so much once again, D Money, good sir. It's a pleasure as always having you here. Love talking with you, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode as well. We will see you all next week on the Beyond Infinite podcast. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Peace out.